So this is ionic compounds with polyatomic ions, and multivalent metals. Where on the periodic table do you find your multivalent metals? How would you recognize them? Yes, they are in the red zone. So this is going to be worksheet 5C. We'll deal exclusively with multivalent. So you can be sure that for these ones, they are going to be in the red zone. And if it's in the red zone, what are we going to need to use? If they're in the red zone, what do we need to use when we're naming them? Absolutely, we need to use those Roman numerals. So let's just work through a couple of examples. Let's start with SnNO3 2. Okay, Sn, if you don't know, is tin. It is in the red zone, so we will need a Roman numeral. And we have NO3. We go and look up NO3. NO3 is nitrate. And one of the things that you're going to need to look up again here is that it has a -1 charge, okay? It's just -1. So this is going to be tin something nitrate. And we know that nitrate has a -1 charge, and that's going to be important because to figure out the charge of tin, we have 1 tin, we have 2 nitrates. Remember, just like in the non-polyatomic compounds, we write down how many ions we have of each, and we write down the charge on the anions. We find the total negative charge, which in this case is -2. And that means that our total positive charge must be equal and opposite. It must cancel out the negative charge, so it has to be +2. And then we take our positive charge and we distribute it onto however many atoms there are. In this case, there's only 1. So this is tin plus 2, which means that the name is tin Roman numeral 2, because of course the charge on a single ion is the Roman numeral. Okay. Now we'll do another one that doesn't have the brackets. Remember, because we have these brackets, what that was telling us is that we had 2 of everything that was in the brackets, and that's why we had 1, 2 nitrates. But we're now going to do an example where we have no brackets. FePO4. And this is where sometimes people get tricked. I say, how many phosphates are there? And they say, oh, there must be 4. Well, here's our cation, our Fe, and we only have 1 of them. The anion is PO4, which means that we have 1 phosphorus atom with 4 oxygens attached. How many of those phosphates do we have? And you guys can answer this. How many phosphates do we have in this compound? Yeah, just 1, because we have not put it in brackets. So we don't have 4 of them. The 4 refers to the 4 oxygens, 1, 2, 3, 4, but we have only 1 of the entire group. So we have a PO4, and I don't know its charge. Well, actually I do, I'm lying. But you probably don't know its charge, so you can just go look it up. PO4, it has a 3 negative charge. Hurrah. We go back. It has a 3 negative charge, meaning my overall negative charge is -3. The positive charge has to cancel that out, +3. And then we distribute it. Oh, there's only one place to put it, so the charge is 3 plus. So our compound name then is iron 3. And then PO4, while I was there looking up the charge, I could also look up its name, and it is phosphate. Don't try and change it to phosphide. Remember, iron 3 phosphide. Almost all the time, "ide" ending means you have a single element. So that would mean that you would have Fe, which is 3 plus, and you would have phosphide, which is 3 minus, and that would give you FeP. That would be iron 3 phosphide. Okay, and that's a different thing altogether. So don't confuse the two. Okay, let's try a couple more. We have Cu2, SO4. Here is our cation, our metal, and Cu is copper. That means everything else is the anion. So the SO4 is the anion. How many sulfates do we have? Uno. C. Okay, we go look it up and we find out what its charge is. It has a 2 negative charge. You know the really interesting thing? I don't know if you've noticed this, but sulfide has a 2 negative charge, and sulfate has a 2 negative charge, and sulfite has a 2 negative charge. Phosphide has a 3 negative charge, phosphate has a 3 negative charge, and phosphite has a 3 negative charge. And you'd think that would be fantastic and you'd just be able to do that all the time. The problem is then you get to nitrate and you're like, oh dang, nitrogen has a 3 minus charge, but nitrate is only -1. So it doesn't work all the time. But it does work for phosphorus and sulfur. So if you're into that kind of thing, that can help you to learn them by heart. If you're not into learning them by heart, don't worry, just look them up. So we're looking up sulfate. It is 2 negative. So how many coppers do we have? 2. So draw out your coppers, Cu, Cu. We have 1 SO4, SO4, and we looked it up. It had a 2 negative charge. Calculate the total negative charge, obviously -2. Total positive charge has to be equal and opposite so that we end up canceling out the negative and getting 0 as the overall charge. And here we actually do have to do a little distributing of the charge. Okay, we have to split that +2 up over the 2 copper atoms. And so this is going to be 1 plus, 1 plus. So this then will be copper 1 sulfate. That 1 tells us the charge. It's not the number 2. Okay, it's not copper 2. It doesn't the Roman numeral does not tell us the number of coppers. It tells us the charge of a single copper. Okay, I'm going to give you a really weird one because normally we wouldn't see something like this, but we have Hg2Cl2. Oh, I don't want that. I want Hg2NO2. There we go. That's better. Okay. This is really unusual. We don't normally see a 2 here and a 2 here. Normally we would reduce that to a 1 and a 1, but I don't know if you remember this from last time. Hg is mercury. And if we go to our polyatomic ion chart and we go to our positive polyatomic ions, come here, Mercury. There you are. Mercury 1, there it is. There's our little weirdo. Okay, Mercury is strange. Mercury 1 has a 2+ charge. And that's because it's made up of 2 mercury atoms bonded together, each of which has a +1 charge. And that's why it is Mercury 1. Okay, so if we go back to our question, Hg is mercury. Let's pretend we didn't know that Hg2 2+, we hadn't just looked that up. Mercury. We have 2 Hgs and we have 2 NO2s. Go look up your charge on the negative substance. And we want to go here, we want to go there, and we want to go N. NO2 has a -1 charge, and its name is nitrate. NO2 has a -1 charge, and its name is nitrite. That gives us a total negative charge. -1 and -1 equals -2. Our total positive charge has to be +2. And that means we distribute this out over the 2 and we get +1 and +1. So that is our Mercury 1. Okay, let's do one more that's just a little bit more complicated. And then we'll do one that's actually less complicated, but tricky. Ni3PO4 2. Anybody know the identity of Ni? Anyone know who Ni is? Yeah, it's nickel. Okay, so we have nickel. And nickel is in the red zone, so it's going to have a Roman numeral. And do you remember the name of PO4? We just used it a few moments ago. PO4. What was its name? It is indeed phosphate. But if you didn't remember that, of course, just go look it up on your chart. Phosphate? Phosphate. That's better. How do we know the charge of the nickel? Draw out your nickels. We have 3 of them this time. 3 nickels. 1, 2, 3. Draw out your phosphates. How many phosphates? This time we have 2 of them. PO4, PO4. Look up your charge of phosphate. It is 3 minus. Find your total negative charge, -6. Total positive charge is equal and opposite, +6. And then distribute that +6 over your 3 nickels. +2, +2, +2. So that is nickel 2 phosphate. Okay, our last example. KOH. It looks kind of funny, all those capital letters in a row. Well, our cation is going to be the first element, unless it's NH4. So there's our cation. K is potassium. And O and H, we have 2 capital letters. That means it is a polyatomic ion. And we have to go to our chart to go look it up. Who is OH? And you might look under O, but all we find is oxalate, and oxalate is C2O4. That's not helpful. But you can look around and you can find that OH is named hydroxide, and it has a -1 charge. So OH is -1. And we have, how many OHs do we have? How many OHs do we have? Yep, just the one. How many Ks do we have? Just the one. And we could get all very excited and say, oh, OH is -1 and K is +1. Therefore, it must be potassium 1 hydroxide, except I've done something wrong. Does anybody know what I've done wrong here? I'll pull up our periodic table. Yeah, it's not multi-cake. It isn't in the red zone. It's not multivalent. Absolutely. I really want a multi-cake tournament. That sounds fun. Okay. So yeah, it's not multivalent. So we would just get rid of that. No Roman numeral. All right. So does anyone feel like they would like another example, or are we feeling like we could just go off and practice? So I'm going to leave it there for today. For homework, you are going to have 3 worksheets. None of them are particularly long, and you're only going to do every second question unless you feel like you want extra practice. So worksheet 5B, worksheet 5C, and worksheet 5D, these are all on the assignment section on Teams. Worksheet 5B has no multivalence. Worksheet 5C has all multivalence. And then worksheet 5D has a mix of both. And for all 3 of these, you're only going to do every second question. Once you've done those 3, every second question, that's the first thing you're going to do. There will be, I gotta post this on Schoology, there will be a Schoology quiz 5A. And if you don't do well on 5A,
then there will be a 5B and a 5C and a 5D. And if you're finding that you didn't do well on 5A, you might want to ask some questions about that. If you need some extra help, tomorrow is a flex day. So if you don't do well, Friday is flex and you could book a time with me. If that doesn't work for you, you would just email me. Okay. If that doesn't work for you, feel free to like drop me an email. I might be able to work you in sometime on the weekend, or, you know, just send you a video from Tyler DeWitt or somebody lovely like that. Yeah, so 3 worksheets, only every second question. It works out to about, I don't know, 30 questions in total. And then you're going to do the quiz. If you do good on the quiz, no problems. If you don't do well on the quiz, maybe you go back and do the other questions and get some help on it.